The Delhi Capitals, I'll tell you what, the finalists of IPL 2020, they're making a real statement by making a mockery of run chasers like that. We'll unfold all of it with, of course, the Butcher. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Criclytics Man versus Machine and cricket.com, and we have Mark Butcher to dissect, of course, the Delhi versus Punjab encounter. We'll come to his predictions, and he's not got off to a flying start, should I say. But Butch, we have to talk about, of course, Kings 11 Punjab. I should get the name right, Punjab Kings, because it's high time we get the names right. Let's just start up top with KL Rahul, because in particular we've seen him, even in IPL 2020, get off to great starts, but he doesn't have the momentum to carry on. Strike rates, are they overrated in your opinion?
Well, they're not. I mean, the strike rates are all important in T20 cricket. Making strike rates of around about 120 nowadays just aren't cutting it. You've got to be way above that, particularly on good pitches. Obviously, you read conditions and you play accordingly. But that pitch was a belter. It was only going to get better because of the dew that we all know falls at Wankhede Stadium. And so in the end, he got bogged down. Ashwin bowled beautifully in the middle, kind of put the brakes on Punjab Kings a bit. They should have got 220. 220 would have made it interesting. But I think Delhi Capitals, you start off with a negative. You said I've got loads of stuff wrong. I said Delhi would win, didn't I? I mean, that's decent. We'll take that.
Yeah, Delhi won, but in the grander scheme of things, Butch, I think you lost 4-2 as a point fish, should we say. We'll unfold that in just a bit. But jokes apart, where did Punjab Kings get this wrong? Tactically, of course, they were outwitted today. Was it just the toss being such a crucial factor?
Yeah, toss is important. But I still think, particularly when they got off to such a great start, you've got Gale waiting to come in. Puran didn't get the chance to to really go to town again. You've got somebody with that sort of strike power sat on his backside for nearly all of the innings. What did he face? 8 or 9 balls or something like that. And you allow Ashwin to bowl in the context of things. He went at 7 runs and over, economy rate of 7 in an innings of 190 something. So that tells you where the brakes went on. And then, rather than finishing with a huge bang at the back end of the innings, Delhi Capitals bowled pretty well, I think, at the death, and just managed to keep a lid on things. And Punjab Kings never really got away from them. And even though KL Rahul at the end of the game sort of said, we were pretty happy with 195, he then said in the same breath, well, there's a lot of dew here at Wankhede and the pitch was great. So, perhaps he was kidding himself. 210, 215, 220 would have made the game very, very interesting indeed. And in the end, Delhi win with plenty of time left in the game.
Yeah, KL Rahul's birthday, and it was not the birthday to remember indeed. Let's just, of course, talk about some of the game-changing overs before we go into those predictions, Butch, because at the end of the day, Criclytics has a lot of data to shed, and you know that in the cricket.com app, and there's game-changing overs as well. Would you say that the Riley Meredith over, which went for about 17 plus, was a game-changing over, or were there any which you spotted out in the match?
There were some big overs right the way through the game. I think that sort of Punjab never really had a lid on it at all at any point when they bowled. So you could say that the most important thing was the power play. That they needed to break through in the first 6. Didn't manage to do it with any great effect, and that allowed Prithvi Shaw got off to an absolute flyer, didn't he? And once that happens, particularly when you're chasing somewhere in the region of 10 and over, just below 10, Delhi got themselves in front of the rate. And so that power play was utterly crucial. Even though Prithvi Shaw didn't end up making the major contribution, that was Shikhar Dhawan, whose strike rates, you talk about strike rates, his strike rates in IPLs have gone up through the roof. I mean, he used to be a 119, 120 guy opening the innings. Not this time, not anymore. He's really gone up a gear or two. Once they got above the rate, that was it. It was all over. It was done.
Yeah, there's something about that Shikhar Dhawan Prithvi Shaw partnership. Remember, I shared you a stat before going into this game, and they had 6 50-plus stands and made it 7 in all in match-winning causes. So that's something for Ricky Ponting to take confidence out of. Let's go into something that you might not be taking confidence out of, which is the Criclytics predictions right now. We'll stick with the batsmen first because you went for Prithvi Shaw. And I have to tell you, Butch, the fact that the machine had two cracks at the cherry. One was Chris Gayle and Shikhar Dhawan. Of course, the latter prevailed and taking a 1-0 lead in that regard. What do you have to say?
Hang on a second. If you're allowed to have two goes, can I have three? I mean, what is this? Is it you're just allowed to hedge your bets if you're a machine?
It's a valid point that you make, but I will let you make probably. I'll let you take two shouts the next time we go for. I promise you that, because at the end of the day, it just chooses a range of options, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, but I could choose a range of options. You asked me for one. It went with one on each side. I went with one guy.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately...
I don't think I'm 1-0 down after that. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I completely side with you here, but we will give it the benefit of the doubt to the machine because ultimately I think you'll prevail in the longer run. It went 1-0 up here. A word in Shikhar Dhawan, please, because you mentioned about his strike rate. What else amazed you about the left-hander's innings?
Well, he's got this... He's got this sort of new shot where he can almost find, doesn't matter what the length or the line of the delivery is, he can get it up and over square leg. I say new, it's something that he's always done, but never to the sort of effect that he has at the moment. He just seems to tag it every single time. He's not a massive sort of hitter down the ground, and perhaps there's an area there for opposition to really make sure that they get the ball underneath him a lot, make him hit it straighter. But all the while that he can find the fence on the leg side, with all left-handers, they're great behind point. Just look at Mr. Lara. I used to fancy hitting it through there as well myself. That all of a sudden, in terms of line, the bowlers are very, very restricted now that he can get pretty much anything over square leg, as well as pepper the square boundary on the offside.
Yeah, it's that heave which looks so majestic for any left-hander. It's that over cow corner, but we'll move on to the bowlers because they were travelling to the cow corner by the looks of things. Plenty of it too. Jai Richardson picking up the most wickets in this match. 2, of course, is what he got. And Butch went with Chris Wokes. He got 1 wicket, so he went 2-0 up to Criclytics here. You're not a happy man.
Yeah, well, I mean, Arshdeep and Jai Richardson are two massive bowlers for Punjab Kings. Arshdeep, again, you sort of talk about sort of strike rates, economy rates. In these types of games, the economy rate for Arshdeep was excellent. Jai Richardson was expensive again, but picked up a couple of wickets, but in the end, in complete vain. But yeah, I'd take that. I don't mind. What's a 2-wicket haul? If the machine's happy with that, let him have it. I don't care.
The machine will take that, definitely take that, because 2-0 became 3-0 when it went to the all-rounders, and this was just by the skin of the teeth. It was Marcus Stoinis, of course, with his 27 not out, and a catch which pipped, of course, Ravi Ashwin to the award, and that's when it was 3-0, and there was no catching up after that, Butch, was there?
No, it wasn't. Actually, to be fair, I'll call this one on myself, because Steve Smith played, right? He hadn't appeared just yet. I said that they'd probably pick Steve Smith for this game, but I thought that they'd leave Stoinis out. He'd be the one to miss out. As it was Tom Curran. Again, I think if you rewind back, I said that it would either be Curran or Stoinis that get left out. Maybe I should get points for picking 2 people like the machine does. I don't know. And of course, Stoinis then didn't bowl, as I thought he might not. But finished things off really, really nicely with the bat. Very handy little cameo coming in and finishing it off with plenty of time to spare.
Yeah, he proved his worth last time out as well in the IPL 2020 comp, and his numbers was fabulous with bat and ball. And a word on Steve Smith, because you were chuffed with the fact that he was playing 10 minutes prior to the toss, but that shot, Butch, explain it to me in one word, please.
Well, T20.
Okay, we'll motor on. We'll motor on because that's the name of the game right now. Because I have Brian Charles Lara in waiting, remember. So top wicket-keeper picks, and this, of course, was one-sided. Rishabh Pant in the end. There was really nothing to choose from because KL Rahul, of course, was good. But, yeah, at the end, KL Rahul winning it. Of course, not Rishabh Pant. But what was I saying? I think KL Rahul scored the most amount of runs. Yes, I should correct that, and it was KL Rahul indeed.
Yeah, it was indeed, yeah. But I mean, it's his birthday, we can give him that. But he was feeling very generous on his birthday because in the end, his lack of intensity through the middle overs perhaps cost his team the game. So look, I'm happy for the machine. I'm delighted for the machine. But in the end, I got the win right. We'll get him next time, tomorrow. We'll get him tomorrow.
No, I think you will. You will eventually prevail, and of course it's early days, and you need a little bit of beginner's luck. Hopefully, game two sees that. Speaking of the result, because this is where you bagged your first point in the history of Criclytics Man versus Machine. Eventually, it turned out to be 4-1. I correct myself because I kept thinking Butch got it right with punt, and so did the Machine, but it was actually KL Rahul, so apologies from that regard. A quick word on Delhi Capitals, because you, of course, backed them to reach the playoffs, maybe more. They're simply fantastic. Without Nokia, without Sam Billings, they're doing the job all right.
Yeah, I mean, they've just got a lot of options. There are a lot of options covered in that side. And you know, if the guys up top, if Shikhar Dhawan and Prithvi Shaw don't get you, then they do have, you know, the likes of Rishabh Pant, as you've mentioned, Stoinis there, high class players in Steve Smith. The bowling lineup's not so bad either. So look, I like them, and I think in the same way, you know, we had a little word about CSK and their lack of that sort of the young spirit in their side. Delhi Capitals have that in spades, and I think that'll take them a long way in this comp.
All right, with that, we'll let Butch be, but before he leaves, let him just describe his time with Criclytics Man vs. Machine through a musical analogy. He did that in the preview, of course, of the CSK one, calling them the Rolling Stones. Butch, how would you assess your performance on day one?
Well, you know, it's the debut album is sometimes doesn't quite get you off to the start that you want, but look out, the sophomore one's going to be a killer.
It is going to be a killer. It's going to be a blockbuster hit. Join us on cricket.com. Catch more of Mark Butcher. It's been thoroughly fun and a compelling watch, of course, with Delhi Capitals, like I said, making a mockery of the run chase. And who knows, maybe time will tell if they can go one step further in 2021. Until then, it's a goodbye from there.